Half a day and good morning, everybody. My name is Kelsey McClellan, and I'm an environmental planner with Pacific Coastal Research and Planning. I'm here today to present to you our project Shoreline Stabilization and Enhancement Plan for the Beach Road Pathway in Saipan, CNMI. This project is funded by the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation from the Emergency Coastal Resilience Fund, the post-YouTube pot of money. The co-PIs on this project are Ann Kitchell of Horsley Wynn, an engineering firm from the mainland, but they do a lot of work out here in the CNMI, and Rebecca Skeel, Director of Pacific Coastal Research and Planning. The project area takes place on the western side of Saipan, in the along the lagoonal area, from Fishing Base over here. You can see in the map. A little bit south of Fishing Base, and then it runs southward towards Oliai, and it ends a little bit north of the Shack, for those of you who are familiar with Saipan. I know we have a lot of CNMI residents on the call and folks who visited a lot, so I think you all are pretty familiar with this area. Anyway, let's dig in. So the agenda for today is I hope to give you all a project overview, discuss the objectives of this project, the timeline, the observations that we've seen at our sites so far, and also, as with any good project, discuss the project challenges. This project is really important for a whole host of reasons, but I'll focus on three. Beach Road is a very popular recreational resource. It is a huge resource for fishermen who can just pull up, park, and go spear or reel and rod fishing. Additionally, the pathway is used for folks for walking and running activities, and there's little exercise sets along Beach Road as well. So it's really, really popular for sunset runs and walks. It is important commercially and in the context of stormwater infrastructure. It is adjacent to valuable commercial assets, and it's one of the few roads that run from the north of the island to the south, one of the main thoroughfares of Saipan. Another main thoroughfare is Middle Road, but today we're going to focus on the Beach Road pathway. It is a buffer between dynamic shoreline and critical infrastructure. And as a result, this is an area of concern for local and federal resource managers. The reasons why Beach Road is so important are also what makes us so concerned about the vulnerability of this infrastructure and of this resource. Beach Road is very close in proximity to high-value community assets. And it's also very exposed to extreme weather events like storm surge. In Saipan's Misbehaving Beaches, a document that was put together by the Division of Coastal Resources Management in 2014, notes the narrowness of the shoreline buffer between the lagoon and the critical infrastructure. The mean beach width on the southern stretch of the shoreline was measured to be 32 feet, while the mean beach width of the northern stretch was measured to be only 16 feet. The Saipan Climate Change Vulnerability Assessment by Robbie Green and Becky Skeel in 2014 described the stretch of shoreline as having medium-high vulnerability to the impacts of climate change, including sea level rise, storm surge from extreme weather events, and resulting coastal erosion. During this assessment, stakeholders noted that the pathway is subject to overtopping during large swells and minor storm events. So as you can see in this diagram, we have Beach Road over here with the vehicle on it off to our left. There are areas where there's some natural vegetation, trees, ironwoods, flame trees, shrubs. Not all of the vegetation is still there. Typhoon Sotolar and U2 culled a lot of the vegetation. There's a boardwalk area. It's one of our focus areas and some of our focus infrastructure for today. In some areas there is grass, in some areas it goes straight to beach. and then here is the lagoon. So the objectives of this project, first and foremost, are to stabilize the shoreline. Once we've stabilized the shoreline, we can focus on all of the other wonderful attributes of this project. Shoreline stabilization is the focus of this project, and I cannot stress that enough. However, when you use green infrastructure techniques, sometimes you can allow and focus, or that allows you to focus on other areas of interest. For instance, improving parking, improving stormwater management and water quality, and perhaps even replacing trees that were removed during typhoons U2 and Sodalor. Additionally, once we've stabilized the shoreline using green infrastructure techniques, also hopefully there's habitat improvement and path improvements as well. One thing I wanted to point out here in this picture, here is some impromptu parking used by folks who want to access these picnic benches. And so one thing that we are hoping to do is formalize parking, but use permeable parking resources to control sedimentation and ponding effects, like what we're seeing right here in this picture. Before I digress and get too far off time, let's talk about the project timeline. This is an 18-month project timeline. Funding was granted in July of 2020. However, we just recently requested for a 6-month extension, mostly due to time constraints presented during the time of COVID. I'm sure this is a song in tune that is familiar to all of you. So we were awarded the grant from NIFWF, a big thank you, in July of 2020. From November, really, through now, was a data collection period. We were able to onboard Horsley Witten formally. That happened in January of 2021. A role that I played from November through now was to pull together an advisory group. The advisory committee, or the advisory group, are a group of representatives from local agencies such as the Mayor's Office, the Division of Coastal Resources Management, Department of Public Works, Division of Land and Natural Resources. I hope I'm not forgetting anybody off the top of my head. So this advisory group is very small. Oh, and the Office of Planning and Development. This advisory group is very small, and that they were specifically chosen because they all have ongoing projects occurring in the project area. And so we wanted to really mine information from them, and we could not do this project without our advisory group and without our local stakeholders. They were able to tell us what projects are currently occurring, proposed projects. We additionally were trying to find more data such as existing conditions and concurrent activities. And we also did an extensive literature review to see what other studies have occurred in this project area. Moving forward, our partners Horsley Witten are putting together alternatives analyses and looking at different conceptual designs for green infrastructure. The areas of focus were guided by the advisory committee, and we'll get more into those in a little bit. Additionally, you'll see something up here called a stakeholder charrette. Once we have conceptual designs from Horsley Witten, we hope to engage a larger community of stakeholders, such as the Marianas Visitors Authority, our friends over at MENA, we just heard from Becky. They're doing some really great work with tree replantings along this project area. So we want to get everybody at the table for the stakeholder design charrette and get everyone's input as to what green infrastructure solutions fit with this community and with the need of this project, which is shoreline stabilization, but also the recreational and commercial benefits that this project will provide as well. Moving forward, this timeline might change a little bit more. These dates aren't set in stone, considering we did get a 6-month extension. The master plan is going to be the deliverable of this project with advanced engineering designs for 2 sites and a master plan with recommendations. We'll also be providing implementation support. So we want to provide CNMI with permit-ready designs for early action projects and ID next steps. So you all have heard me talk about these 2 focus areas. The advisory committee got together during one of our first meetings in November of 2020, and we had this big map posted, and we put stickies of all of the current projects. So you might see yellow and red. Red is where the Division of Coastal Resources yellow is where the Division of Coastal Resources Management has shoreline analyses and HUD sticks for their shoreline measurements. And on the pink post-its, we have notes from Department of Public Works and DLNR, Division of Land and Natural Resources, as to what projects they have ongoing here. So what the advisory committee and PCRP came up with is these 2 focus areas. So we have Atkins-Kroll area, which is also known as micro intersection. And then we have an area a little bit up north, Quartermaster Road. So these 2 areas were selected based on a couple of factors. One, they have been identified by the Army Corps of Engineers as needing shoreline stabilization, and there is a ongoing Army Corps project right now looking at 2 of these sites are looking at a larger project area. And then there's noticeable effects during storms. So storm surge, pooling and ponding is observed during these areas. So the advisory committee really wanted us to focus on these 2 areas. So I'm going to take you guys on a little guided tour. I strapped a GoPro onto my head and biked a long beach road. So it was right after a storm event. So you'll notice some ponding from water runoff. You'll also notice that there's not a lot of buffer between the road and the lagoon. You'll notice some people running, some great infrastructure features such as this boardwalk. This boardwalk was actually put into place around 1994. You'll notice that it is pretty weathered. There's a lot of erosion occurring on the right side of it. And it's almost sand completely underneath. Now we're not sure if it was always sand underneath, and that's somebody who was a long-term resident of the CNMI could probably tell us that, but we've been trying to figure out what was originally underneath this boardwalk. So this is the Atkins-Kroll, or the micro intersection study area, or area number 1, as we called it. Area number 2 is, this is leaving Atkins-Kroll. There's one of the workout benches I talked about, leaving Atkins-Kroll and going up to Quartermaster. Quartermaster is our second site. Sorry about the shoddy camera work. But again, you'll notice Morning Glory, ironwoods, some scalloped infrastructure that provides some protection for the trees. You'll notice downed trees. Off to our left, you'll notice a lot of erosion occurring along the pathway. Coming up, you'll see lights, you'll see an outfall. And so the point of this video is to really give you all perspective as to what the current condition of the beach road pathway is. It's an absolutely lovely pathway, but hopefully we can improve its function and provide some shoreline stabilization through this project. All right, let me pause that. There we go. So here is some oblique imagery from 2015. And this is the focus area number 1, the Atkins-Kroll intersection, or micro intersection. You can see the boardwalk right here. You can see a phenomenon that happens at the outfalls where there's ponding of sand and sedimentation. from these outflows. Atkins Kroll is, or micro intersection, is one of the first places that tourists see when they are coming on island. If they're coming from this road, they'll go down, and it's kind of their first view of the island. And so Horsey Wynn's really aware of that when they're coming up with these concept designs. The current state, the observations that we've seen are exposed concrete walls, outfalls are discharging directly onto the beach. The elevated concrete path is deteriorating. There are broken lighting bollards. There's not a lot of green space, and lots of impervious cover is draining here. This was a really small rainfall event that I captured in these photos and videos, and you'll notice ponding occurring right here. So Horsey Wynn, with the direction and guidance of our wonderful advisory committee, pulled together some current condition schematics. And so that's what we're looking at here. And they just have some questions that we asked during our advisory committee meeting, and folks will guide us on what's where. Our second focus area is Quartermaster Road, which is right here in the lower right hand of the picture. And again, you'll see that that sedimentation phenomena occurring. And there's an outfall right there, a stormwater outfall. And so Quartermaster is also a really interesting site because there are already a lot of green infrastructure projects that have been prioritized there. So you'll notice that there is permeable parking. There are also clogged drainage pipes. There's informal parking and ponding occurring right here. That's something that I pointed out earlier on when we were talking on that objective slides. There are new trash cans provided by the Division of Coastal Resources and Management. That was a campaign that they pulled together last year, a really cool community project. And then there are also, let's see, exposed tree roots, shoreline erosion, which is not quite to the edge of the path, but it's getting really close. Again, a current conditions schematic that Horsey Wynn pulled together and informed by as-built surveys provided by Department of Public Works and informed by the advisory committee. So we did some fact finding during our advisory committee meetings. So this project is currently underway. We are waiting on our Horsey Wynn partners. They've been working really hard on design schematics, so we're really excited to see what they come up with. We have encountered some challenges, like most of you all have during the time of COVID. COVID restricted our travel capabilities, so Horsey Wynn was supposed to come out and do site investigations. We hired a shoreline engineer subcontractor from Shoreline Conservation Initiative in Hawaii. His name's Rob Walker. Hopefully he'll be coming on the island in the upcoming months. And he's going to be Horsey Wynn's eyes and ears. There were restrictions on public meetings, although those are loosening up. The mayor's office of Saipan has been absolutely fantastic and let us use their really fabulous meeting space. But also we've decided to move to virtual meetings as well. We're playing around with the idea of having a virtual design charrette, but we're not quite sure if we are comfortable with that. We're hoping that everybody would be able to attend safely in person. It's also a concurrent Army Corps of Engineers project. We have been coordinating with Army Corps and Office of Planning and Development to make sure that there's no duplication of efforts. PCRP is focusing on habitat and green infrastructure. We're really engaging the community in this. Again, we're just in the beginning stages, but I'm really excited about the products of this project. And I think it's going to have a really big impact. So I just want to say a huge thank you to NIFWIF for funding this project, to our project partners, Horsey Wynn, to the Marianas Terrestrial Conference for having us present. Thank you to Hulda for pulling this all together. I really want to say thank you to our advisory committee members, the Mayor's Office of Saipan, the Office of Planning and Development, Department of Public Works, Division of Coastal Resources Management, Division of Land and Natural Resources, and I cannot wait to engage a lot of you for our design charrette. So Becky, I'm looking forward to getting Mina on the line and the Marianas Visitors Authority as well. If anybody has any questions, I am not available at this time. This was all pre-recorded. So if you all have any questions, please feel free to email me at kelsey.mcclellan@pacificcrp.org.